Hello, my name's John Moran, and this is 707. My guest today is a return guest. He's been on this show, I think, can you remember, Alan?
Oh, it was probably a year ago.
About a year ago, okay. His name is Alan Silow, and he is the executive director of the Santa Rosa Symphony. Welcome again.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Last time we went through briefly some of your qualifications. I'd like just to go through again if I can, if you can spare me the time. You've been the executive director for 14 years now?
That's exactly correct.
Thank you very much. I've done my research.
Yes.
Whenever I see you on the street, do you know Le Carre? Are you aware of John Le Carre's work?
Yes, sure.
I always think of you as the George Smiley of of the symphony. The power behind in an unassuming gait. Nobody knows the power that this man holds as he walks down 4th Street. Am I wrong?
Well, you haven't spoken to my wife. I'm sure she doesn't have that viewpoint.
Okay, so you've been here 14 years. Previous to that, you were the executive director of Pro Musica Chamber Orchestra in Columbus.
Yes.
Before that, you were director of marketing and public relations for the Santa Fe Chamber Music Festival. And then prior to that, executive director of the Santa Fe Convention and Visitors Bureau. But you're not from Santa Fe or California.
That's true.
You're a Brooklyn boy.
Yes, although I'd say probably when I count up the years, I would identify more with California than Brooklyn, because I left there when I was 16.
You did?
Yeah.
Why?
It's called going to college.
And you went to college in Santa Fe? Or?
No, I went to college, University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin. And then after that, I went to graduate school, got a master's at Princeton.
Right, okay, Princeton. So you're kind of up there in the Ivy League.
Well, hopefully Wisconsin and Princeton sort of balances out the two sides.
All right, and you've been living in Santa Rosa now for
14 years.
14 years.
As you said.
So you must like it.
I love Northern California.
What do you like about it?
Well, what I love about it is that a couple of things. First of all, it has a progressive, open-minded, accepting climate in terms of the people. It's obviously, climactically, it's a beautiful place to live. You've got, the redwoods, you've got the ocean, you've got the temperature that's just really, really lovely. So those are the two main reasons I really enjoy Northern California. To some degree, I feel like I'm on an island, but with people that I really trust. Yeah, a floating island, yes.
Do you find this is now more home for you than any other place?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Santa Fe still has a place in my heart. We still have a home there. We go back there every so often, but I really feel at home here in Sonoma County.
Right, and Santa Fe and Sonoma County, certain similarities.
Without a doubt. I mean, the arts are very integral to both places. The quality of life and the quality of the restaurants are exceptional. So there's a lot of similarity in both very sort of progressive outposts, I'd say.
Right. So the executive director of a symphony orchestra, a symphony orchestra that is not in any way parochial. Mm-hmm. Its renown goes, how far does its renown spread?
Well, I'd say we have a national reputation now as one of the leading regional symphony orchestras in America. There's a number of reasons for that, but I'm really proud to be able to sit here and say that today.
Tell me some of the reasons.
Well, some of the reasons are, we're now in our 89th season, which is kind of unbelievable, which makes us the third oldest professional orchestra in the state of California after the LA Phil and San Francisco Symphony.
And it was created by Corrick Brown?
No, George Trombley, 1928.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was there for about 40 years, and then Corrick Brown came, and he was there for about 38 years. Then Jeffrey Kahane for 11 years, and now Bruno Ferrandis for 12 years. So we've had only 4 music directors in those 89 years.
And sorry, I interrupted you with regards to its renown and what its reputation is.
I think particularly when Jeffrey Kahane came on board, he already had a wonderful reputation as a fine pianist. And I think that he attracted a level of musicianship so that we became more and more a professional orchestra of musicians who that's what they were doing on a daily basis. So he really raised the profile of the orchestra.
Right.
And then Bruno came on board and I think has taken it to another level of artistry. And of course, along the way, the board, the community made a commitment to how can we even do better, and they decided, well, we need to have a better instrument called the hall for classical music. And so there was a long campaign, longer than most people had hoped for, but nevertheless it succeeded in the end, and we are now proud to say we're the resident orchestra of the Green Music Center.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been to that hall knows it's an exceptional place to hear classical music. So that's also raised the profile of the orchestra.
But you are the Santa Rosa Symphony and not the Rona Park.
That's exactly right. And you know, when we moved to the Green Music Center, we actually did hire consultants and looked at a possible name change because we wanted to see if that would be appropriate. And in the end, what we concluded is that Santa Rosa Symphony already had such a national reputation that it would be not a good idea to really alter that at all. You know, we took a look at should we have the word Sonoma in there, and yet, you know, when you talk about Sonoma, people get confused. Are you talking about the town? Some people think you just moved from Santa Rosa to Sonoma, so that really didn't work out either. So
but you were at the Wells, or what is now the Luther Burbank Center for many years.
We were there for over 30 years. And in fact, in some ways, we are still at the Luther Burbank Center because we have a pop series that we've, now in its 11th year, that we've always stayed. And I made that personal commitment to Everett Person, who was a strong supporter of the arts and loved both the new hall, Green Music Center, and the LBC. And so,
what is the difference between those venues, both for the audience and the orchestra?
Well, I mean, yeah, for the orchestra, I mean, first of all, you know, just as the Weill Hall at the Green Music Center really raised the caliber of a venue, LBC folks have done quite a lot in renovating their main hall. So that's also quite lovely. But from our orchestral point of view, why we have retained the pop series always at the LBC is because they're wired, you know, and that makes the most sense in that hall, you know, whereas the Weill Hall, Green Music Center, was purposely built for acoustical classical music.
Right.
And that's where the sound reverberates the best. It's designed after Music Verein, which is in Vienna, the home of the Vienna Philharmonic, and that shoebox design is exactly what almost all acoustical experts say is the best thing to hear classical music.
Isn't it based on Tanglewood, or?
Well, it's based on Tanglewood, that hall there, Ozawa Hall, but Ozawa Hall was designed on the basis of Music Verein. It shows the roots are back in Vienna for that shoebox design. And that's for classical acoustic music, which is different than the pops, where everybody, you know, is wired.
And sometimes that's open air anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And the LBC is perfect for that.
Let's continue after a quick break.
Sure.
Do not go away. Welcome back. We're talking with Alan Silow, the Executive Director of the Santa Rosa Symphony. Alan, I believe there are some changes afoot. Could you disclose what is, not this year, but throughout 2020, how do you pronounce that, 2017?
Either way.
Well, whatever. So what is going to be happening?
Well, you know, let me preface by saying, you know, I think every organization, if they're going to really do important things, they have to have what I call is a BHAG, B-H-A-G. And that stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And that
Which sums you up.
No, it sums up what I think an organization needs to feel inspired, to feel motivated, and to capture the passion and interest of the community it serves.
Does it have to change?
It absolutely does change, but not something overnight. And I'm talking about big goals. So for example, the symphony's commitment to raise money in support of the SSU building the Green Music Center was a big, hairy, audacious goal, that took nearly 14 years. So, now we're talking our next BHAG, which you sort of indicated here.
I'm going to write this down.
Yes, all right. You can feel HAG. Yeah, feel free to use that.
BHAG.
I recommend it for all nonprofits.
Of
they
course.
should have at least
Thank
one
you
big
so
one.
much.
Yes, my pleasure. So, what we're looking at now is we're in search of our next music director. And as I indicated earlier, we've only had 4 in our 89-year history. So, the next person we imagine will also be with us for quite some time. And
what is the regular tenure of a musical director?
Well, I'm not sure. I've never looked at the statistics across the country and what's the average tenure of a music director. I know in our case, Jeffrey Kane was with us for 11 years, and Bruno Ferrandis, after his season ends next year, will have been with us for 12 years. So 10 to 12 years, at least in my experience here. But there are other situations where music directors have been much longer or shorter. But in both cases here, they leave of their own volition. They leave having left the orchestra better for it and give us enough lead time to really find the right next person.
Do they stay until perhaps they think they've done what they came to do?
Exactly. They reach a point where they feel like they've accomplished what they've came to do, and it's now an opportunity for someone else to bring their own artistic flavor to the audience and to the orchestra.
How does the orchestra react to something like that when there is a changeover of music director?
Well, the difficult thing to understand is you're using one noun, orchestra, but we're talking about 82 individual musicians.
Sure.
And trust me, if you know musicians, there's no way you can give a simple answer to the term orchestra, because we're talking about 82 very strong-minded professionals.
Alan, I was in a band. I know what musicians are.
Exactly.
So, go on, sorry.
So, nevertheless, I think that they are very much involved in this process in the sense of we have, in fact, in our union contract, when we formed a search committee, and I was on the search committee 11 years ago that hired Bruno Ferrandis, and now I'm on the current music director search committee. It's made up of 4 musicians that are elected by their colleagues in the orchestra, 5 board members, and myself. So it's a committee of 10. And so they are well represented, and in the process we will also garner input from the orchestra members for each of these candidates.
And do they give you feedback about what was great about the director and what wasn't so great?
You mean about the candidates or the...
No, not about the candidates.
The current music director.
The current.
Yeah. Just as I am evaluated annually, the music director is also evaluated by the board president. Both the music director and I report to the board president, who represents the full board. And we have a full board of 39 board members.
Right.
Yeah.
And when they give their opinion on the search committee, they say, well, look, Bruno was great at this, but he never bought us donuts or whatever. They give you that feedback, and then...
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that whenever somebody departs, people are looking at what did that person do that's exceptional, that we have to continue, and what might be new areas that we could develop that we might look for in a new music director.
So although you said 89 members, is that?
82.
82 members, all different personalities, but there must be a constancy among them, no matter how, the freeway...
Freeway Philharmonic.
The Freeway Philharmonic.
Because it's challenging to put together a viable lifestyle as a professional musician in the Bay Area. So they're performing in other orchestras as well as ours. That's why it's called the Freeway Philharmonic.
But is it their decision to say, Alan, to you or to the board or to whomever, we really loved the way Bruno did this or Jeffrey did that. Can we kind of search for something a little more like that? Or?
Well, I mean, the way it works is, as I said, there is this search committee, and one of the first things we did is we created a profile of characteristics or qualifications we're looking for in a music director.
Exactly.
And then we produced a job description. And so, each of us on that committee had input into that process. So that's how that worked.
The job description in, if you like, this coming searches terms were what?
Right. Well, I'll read something that's a little...
He pulls the rabbit out of his pocket.
Yes, assuming I can with this tape here, but let me see if I can do that quickly. This I thought was a really It's a little over the top, but it's an
course.
interesting, it gets across the fact that we're looking for a music director, not a conductor. People confuse that. Music director does much more than conduct, but nevertheless, here's our help wanted ad for a music director that someone gave me.
You put it on in the coffee houses.
Yeah, right. Must be superb conductor with international reputation, makes sense. Outstanding all-around musician, good ear for up-and-coming performers, world-class concert programmer, great personnel manager, smooth button man, fine administrator, intensely articulate, schmoozer extraordinaire, charming as needed, generally exciting individual, ability to pack an audience is a must, and fondness for wine and fine cuisine is a plus. I thought we should add can walk on water, but they didn't like that.
Oh, right. Have you got an application form?
Yeah, right, exactly. So you can see it's quite a challenge, the kind of person we're looking for to lead
One
this
thing that
organization.
jumps out at me there, and going to your website, it was stressed by the potential candidates, which we'll get to, was being part of the community where you live. And going, as you said, a music director is not a stick waver, just.
That's right.
But they have to become part of where they are. That struck me as very important. And for what reason would it be important?
Well, it's important because, you know, the success that we've enjoyed during my tenure here is not just because we have an artistically excellent product, and it's not just because we're so fiscally prudent. To do those things, we have to become relevant to the community. We have to engage the community, and and it's really communities, because there's very different segments of our population in Sonoma County.
Right.
So we continually have to ask, how are we relevant? What are our programs? How are they serving different elements of this community? So I think that community relevancy is what drives the other two factors being successful.
Okay. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
You're surprised how quick this goes on.
Yes.
So am I. We will be back soon, and we will be talking about the candidates who are going to be taking the podium next year and almost auditioning before the whole of the county. So don't go away. Welcome back. I'm talking to Alan Silow, the Executive Director of the Santa Rosa Symphony, and we're going to be talking about the candidates who are going to be taking the podium in 2017, just to see what their chops are. And after that, a decision will be made by the committee, the search committee and the board of directors. Is there any other people that will have an input on?
Absolutely. For each of the conductor candidates, we're going to have an online survey available for all our patrons who attend those concerts, giving us feedback that'll be summarized, and that information will come to the search committee. The orchestra members, the musicians, also will have their own survey that they will fill out, that will summarize, and that input will also come to the committee. So there's a lot of interest in, again, in engaging the community, being both the orchestra and the patrons in the hall.
Okay. And just remind me, do you stream your concerts?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Okay, that's a quick answer for me. Thank you very much. Okay, so there are 5 candidates.
That's correct. And they'll
one-
be performing the first 5 sets of our 7-set classical season from October 2017 to February 2018.
And the last 2,
The last 2 will be a
will-
celebratory goodbye final 2 sets led by Bruno Ferrandis.
Okay, just let me tell our viewers know, we will have a video of all the candidates, approximately 15 minutes long, which will air after this 707 episode. So we're only going to refer to them by name, and here I go. Francesco Lecce Chong, she is American.
He is.
He is. Oh, it's an O, isn't it? Francesco. Mei Ann Chen, and she's from Taiwan, I believe.
Yes. But she's an American citizen. She
Sure.
lives here.
Yeah. We're not talking about illegal immigrants here, Alan. Andrew Grams, he led the Elgin Symphony Orchestra.
He does currently.
And from New York, perhaps? Or Maryland? Maryland.
Originally.
Graham Jenkins, he's an English gentleman. He's got the job, by the way.
All right.
And Michael Christie.
Yes.
Now, how many applications did you receive?
Well, first of all, we did not advertise this job.
Oh, you didn't?
No, because we'd still be looking at resumes if we did. We would have been assaulted by
hundreds. How do you get the word out?
So how we get the word out is through the members of the search committee. We all have contacts in the field. I know executive directors from around the country. I know people in New York, musicians know other musicians, board members know other board people. So we went after the people we thought could fulfill the job description that we came up with.
So you specified?
So we went after people. Now, of course, having said that, there are lots of word of mouth in this industry when you hear that so we got a lot of people still contacting us directly. So in the end, we had 60 applicants, and we did an enormous amount of research, both looking at YouTube clips and visiting. We actually reached out and visited a number of these conductors who were conducting in Northern California.
Okay.
Some board members actually flew to Toronto to see one candidate. So where it got difficult is when we got down to the final 10. That's when it became pretty challenging, because by then you have a pretty high-level crop of candidates. And so we finished it with Skype interviews with each of those individuals after checking references and so on and so forth. And then we narrowed it down to the 5 that we have before us. And then I had to make sure that I could actually schedule them for the dates we had already scheduled. Sure. And that was a little bit of a moving target, but in the end I was able to schedule all 5.
So what struck you and your fellow search members and the orchestra and whomever else about these 5?
Well, I think one of the things that when you see the video, which is really a beautiful video, we've gotten wonderful feedback on it, you'll see, first of all, these are enormously experienced conductors and music directors. They have all had really stellar careers, and many of them will continue to be conducting and being music director of other organizations. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing, that the level of their musical experience is vast. And then you'll see a real diversity. You'll see a diversity in terms of gender. One of the 5 is a woman. You'll see diversity in terms of age, from one might say young to somewhat mature. You'll see it in 3 different nationalities are represented by those 5 music directors. But I think they all fulfilled the search committee's desire they really see this as a golden opportunity, and that they bring a level of artistry that I think everyone in Sonoma County will be excited about. It's going to be a tough decision, I can tell you that in the end.
Is artistry assumed from them?
Well, it's not assumed. What we do is, we were vetting their references.
I understand that, but they are the last 5.
Right.
And from the 10, all of them, I would presume, you knew they had the artistic chops to do.
Exactly. So, for example, if somebody is a music director, one of them is a music director of Chicago Sinfonetta. So we spoke to musicians there. We spoke to the executive director there. We spoke to board members there.
Sounds like a whispering game to me.
A whispering game?
Yes. What's he like?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yes, right. Well, in the end, we spoke directly to each of these candidates, so the whispers went away and we saw for ourselves the quality of the person. And also, 2 of the 5 candidates, it wasn't planned that way, but 2 of the 5 candidates have actually already guest conducted with the Santa Rosa Symphony.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, Michael Christie was here in January of 2015, and Mayan Chen was here in January of 2016.
Okay.
So our audiences have already actually seen 2 of the 5, but it wasn't in that perspective that they were music director candidates at the time. They were just guest conductors.
Was there something magic about them all?
You're right. Notwithstanding all the qualifications and descriptions, I think the search committee all felt each candidate that we were looking for had to have the it factor.
I know.
And that is somewhat indescribable, except you know it when you see it or when you feel it. And so in the end, I think that was something that was motivating us all. Does this person have that it factor that can really inspire both the audience and the musicians?
Right.
And I think each of them do in their own way.
Different ways, of
Absolutely.
Course. And this is going to go through until Bruno's final 2 concerts?
Well, what will
or
happen is, again, they
performances?
will be here, the 5, from October to February. Then the search committee, after taking in all the input from the audience and orchestra, will make a recommendation to the board, and the
Right.
board will make a final selection in March of 2018.
Okay.
And then Bruno will conduct his last 2 sets in April and May of
It's a
2018.
hell of a process.
It is. It's actually a similar process that we did for Jeffrey Kahane's last season. So we knew it worked then. We figured it should be able to work again.
Right. Well, I can only wish you good luck.
Well, thank you very much.
I know you're going to make the right decision,
I hope everybody comes and is excited as we are.
and they should, because
Yeah.
I just want to say, a lot of people haven't gone to symphony concerts. I urge you just to go once, and if you don't like it, fine, but it's an experience you will never forget. Am I right?
Well said.
Thank you very much. Alan,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next time.